It's me, KatieBeth again. And, so I bought tickets to the National History Museum in Los Angeles because they are having a night about Game of Thrones. So I was just going to go to the normal museum exhibit, but then I saw they're selling tickets to a night for it. And the ad/ticket said cosplay encouraged. So yes, that is mainly the main reason why I said purchase now. So the tickets were pretty cheap. They're only $15. I'm not expecting a lot. They did say there'll be like snacks and beverages available, but I think that's for purchase separately. But really, I just wanted a chance to get dressed up. I do not currently have any Game of Thrones cosplay to wear, so I went to the fabric store, got these two fabric patterns that I plan to combine to make one dress. I'll show you. So I like the top cleavage line on this dress, but I like the skirt shape of this one, and I also like that kind of like shoulder jacket thing. So I'm going to try to combine them. I did make a preliminary sketch, which I can draw better than this, but I was just trying to get the main idea out of my head. I don't think this really means anything to anyone, but this is the neckline of the blue dress that I like. So this one. And then with the skirt of this one. And then this part here is just chest being shown off. And then the little shoulder pad things. Now the museum night is 2 nights from now. And it's already a night time right now. So I have about a day and a half to try and make a gown. I don't make a lot of gowns, but I make a lot of Oktoberfest dresses. Like this lady here. So that's what gives me the confidence to think like, oh yeah, I probably can just whip a gown out of places and make it. I did manage to buy the fabric already, most of the fabric. I was having a ton of problems getting the fabric that I wanted because what I want, let me show you here in this picture. Some of it was available. No! Because Joann's pricing is so weird, I really never want to buy anything at full price because there's always different types of coupons and sales, and if you buy it online, you can buy it for sale price plus the online coupon, which generally works, but because I want this fabric and I want it now because I need to make my gown now because my event's in 2 days or a day, every time I try to order the fabric online, it keeps going straight to canceled. And I did go into one of the stores for one of these, and their manager did honor the price for me, but I didn't want to keep going back and keep begging, so I'm probably just going to have to pay the full higher price without the main coupon. But I did get enough fabric that I can start with, so that's what I think I'm going to be doing tonight. And if worse comes to worse, I figured at least if I get the bodice made, then the skirt I can just kind of drape on and tack on and sew last minute if I have to. So main goal tonight is to try and at least get a lot of the bodice done. So please hang out with me for another few minutes as I speed this up and try to make this happen. So if you've watched any of my other videos, you know I hate reading instructions, but I did go ahead and read just the beginning instructions here to find out what pieces I needed and to make sure I cut out the right pieces. And for the bodice, it looks like I only need the first 5 pieces, so I'm going to go ahead and cut those out. And a cool thing about this pattern is that it has a lot of the pieces in like individual pieces, not like one piece for 8 different sizes. It's one piece for 1 or 2 different sizes, so that makes it a little nicer. This particular pattern piece is one of the ones that does come in 2 different sizes, but I only want one size, and I don't want to have to cut into the one piece I have and mess it up, so I'm taking 2 pieces of parchment paper and just taping them together. And then I'll trace my new pattern onto that. That way I don't have to mess up the original in case I want to use the other size later. I do try to make all of the important notations on the pattern piece just in case I lose the original. I still have everything I need on my copy. And I didn't know why, but there was lines drawn down the front of this pattern piece, and I went ahead and copied them still. And then I figured out later that they're the channels for the boning to go through. This is the front center piece, which is the most important piece. So I go ahead and try it on myself, measuring it out. And I realize it does need to be a little shorter because that's way too tall. So I go ahead and pretty much just cut it down to the smaller size, actually. And then I want the waist to come down a little lower The pattern has a really high waist, and I want it to come down and meet that front center piece more. So I did add a little extra onto there, but in hindsight, I could have added more. Now, ooh la la, I wanted to show off this fusible interfacing I found. It's like a cotton fabric, but it has fusy glue on the other side, so when you iron it, it sticks. But then the other side just looks like cotton black fabric. And the little trick I've learned with interfacing is just iron it onto the ugly side of the fabric, so then when you do cut it out, you're basically only having to cut out one piece, but you're cutting out the fabric and the lining at the same time. The main thing you have to watch out for when doing this is to make sure that everything's smooth and you're not ironing wrinkles in, because when you do that, they'll stick and just always be wrinkled. So you have to make sure to iron that out. This next step is pretty boring, but pretty important. I've broken so many needles by not changing them out in time. They just get really dull and they kind of bend. So I'm changing this to a brand new leather needle. I'm using the leather just because I know I'm going to be using some really thick layers. I ordered these ones off of Amazon, but I'm pretty sure Joanne sells them as well. And if you've never changed your needle, I'll just give you a quick little tutorial. This little screw on the side here, you just loosen that up, and then you pull out the needle, and then put the new needle right back up, and then tighten the screw on the side again. And after that, I was able to just start sewing all of my shapes together. Again, since I don't read the directions, I just kind of sew all the shapes together that look like they should go together. Another trick I've learned is to always iron your seams flat. And to keep it flat, I've started using interfacing to kind of fuse my seam flat, and that way it doesn't start rolling up or fraying. It just stays flat the entire time, and I never have to worry about it again. But you do want to make sure that your seams are where you want them, otherwise it's going to suck to have to rip that up to undo the seams. But for me, this worked beautifully and I loved it. Around curves, I kind of cut fusible interfacing down to size and then kind of paste them around the seam. That way I don't have to try to make a curve of the seam. And here's my two pieces that I need to make the inside of the bodice. Turns out I'm basically making a corset on the inside of the bodice. So I've pinned my two pieces of corset together, and then I'm going to just try and trace out where the zip ties go for the stays. The pattern directions actually said to use zip ties. I'm not just being crafty, but it was a very good idea. I also found that between the blue and the white, the blue pencil works a lot better, and it pretty much just rubs away, so it's not a problem with drawing on the fabric. Then it came to actually sewing down the channels, and as you can see, I was not always the best. Most of the time, it's not that bad, but as you can see right here, it started to veer off enough that it was going into the other channel and was going to make a huge mess of it, so I just seam ripped it and did it again. Again, my channels are not all that pretty, but they're working. I could fit the zip ties in, so I went ahead and just created the rest of the channels. And check out the back. I was actually really excited. It doesn't look too bad. It actually looks pretty cool. So I continued on sewing, and of course, because it's me, I managed to sew part of the fabric to itself, messing up the lining, and I had to unstitch that. And then, of course, because it's me, I ran out of thread on my bobbin and had to thread a new bobbin. The next mistake I made is I fused the cleavage part together, so I had to rip that off and cut it off, but it looked just fine after that, so far. Dun dun dun, foreshadowing. So continuing on with this, I was just really running out of time and had to find places to find some shortcuts. Unfortunately, with me trying to rush, my machine decided, ha ha ha, I'm going to eat your fabric. So I don't even have the thread in there, just the fabric got jammed down in there, and it's layers and layers of fabric. So I had to keep wiggling at it and pulling at it to try and get it out without it ripping. My next failure in rushing and not reading directions is I thought I could just sew all the seams together and it would be fine. But as you see, when I turned it right side up, this looks like trash. That's supposed to be the cleavage line, and that looks disgusting. That would just look really dumb. The sticks wouldn't stay up there, so I'm going to have to turn that back inside out and just rip those seams out. Fortunately, it did come out pretty okay. And from there, I decided just to stitch the cleavage line by hand and not try to get it stuck in my machine anymore or do any weird things. So it did take a while to do this by hand, but it was worth it because it actually turned out pretty well. For my neck shortcut, for the side seams, I just folded them over and then used that interfacing, the fusible interfacing, and just fused it on. So it gave a really nice clean edge to it. And I only did that on the sides. I didn't do it on the bottoms because I still have to stuff them full of zip ties, of which I ran out of and had to run to Harbor Freight and grab some more. And I was kind of grossed out. All the new ones I got were pretty dirty, but I wiped them off and started shoving them back into the corset. And I just wanted to show everyone how I kind of did this. I chopped off the pointy ends of it and kind of rounded them out with some flush cuts. And those are the flush cuts from Harbor Freight also for $3.99, which I don't really recommend anymore, and you'll see in a little bit why. But I just kind of shove them up into the corset channelings, the boning channelings, all the way up. And as you can see there, it's really loose because turns out when I put it together, it didn't have that center channel down there. And so I'm taking my machine to go back down and make a solid channel down the center, or a solid seam so that the channels will be separated. But I made a mistake here also that used a lot of time that I didn't have, because as you can see when I stop this, it's kind of ugly on the front, not quite right, and then when you turn over on the side, it's not even down the center of the channel. So I had to seam rip those out, and again, sew it in by hand. I had to make that center channeling by hand. However, after that, all of the channels seemed to work really well. The zip ties just went right in there. That is until I came across one of the channels that I just made too thin for the zip tie to fit all the way in. But I managed to fix that by just trimming down the side of the zip tie to kind of make it thinner, and it worked perfectly. Cycling back to what I said earlier, this is why I no longer recommend the Harbor Freight flush cuts. I was just cutting a zip tie and the end flew off. I have no idea where it is, but luckily I still have both of my eyes. So next, in the spirit of getting this done quickly, I just trimmed all the zip ties down pretty much to their edges, except for the centerpiece, because I know I wanted to fold that over more. And then I just started trying to hide the edges. So for the centerpiece, I just folded it over, and then again used the interfacing, the fusible interfacing. And that way on the front side, it would still look really nice. And on the edges, I used some bias tape, and then I used the interfacing type of fusible tape. And I put it in there and just ironed it all down just so I could get this done quickly. So this is what the back of it looks like, and then this is what the front of it looks like. So not the best, but also not the worst. So I pinned the sleeves together and do a first try on, and it looks horrible. It looks like a really small sports bra. Really boxy and just up high, and the armpits are too tight, and it just doesn't fit. So I feel like I need to make the sleeves longer, and I try to measure out about how much longer I'll need to make the sleeves. Meanwhile, I get distracted by my choices of Grommet Makers. I have 3 different choices, 2 I've never tried, and 1 I know is absolutely horrible. So I start in by drawing approximately where I want to put all the grommets, and at first I thought I'll just cut through it with these little scissors, but that didn't work. So then I used the actual scissors, which was a horrible idea because it just poked a giant slit through, way bigger than I needed it to be, and it made it more off to the side. But eventually I figured out that I could use the grommet hole punch to kind of punch an initial hole through the fabric, and then take a screwdriver and just keep jabbing through. From there I can kind of just shove a grommet in, and then shove the other side on it that I need to be there. And then I take the grommet press and just press it on. And some of the grommets I tried to use had a little rubber stamp in between, but they really didn't seem necessary, so I stopped using them eventually. Next, I started working on the Modesty Panel that kind of hides your skin in the back in case there's an opening. Logically, it seemed like 2 sticks on the side would be good, but the way it has it in the directions is to do it crisscross, so I for once decided to follow directions. And again, for the sake of time, I went ahead and just sewed the seam by fusing it with the fusible fabric. It seemed to work out pretty well. Next, I created my sleeve extensions and spent about an hour hand sewing them on. And then here I am trying it on, and it actually made it too long. So I go ahead and try to just keep making the sleeve shorter and shorter, until finally I find out I really don't need the sleeve extension at all, but I've just spent an hour sewing them on. So it turns out 2 days is not enough time to make a gown. I barely have the top done, and I don't even quite have that done, and I did do a lot of shortcuts. But there's no way I'm gonna have enough time to make the skirt. I have an hour left to do my hair, makeup, finish the top, and put together something for the bottom. So because I'm so short on time, I don't have time to undo the sleeves I already painstakingly sewed on. And so I'm trying to use some fusing to just be able to iron the sleeves together. But I know I can't trust that alone, so I'm also doing some quick safety pinning. I've chosen this cording from Hobby Lobby. For corsets though, I really would recommend a thicker cording. This is just what I had on hand. And now for hopefully the final try on. Just gonna lace this up. So this is where I realized I can't put this on my own, and the sleeve fusing did not work. It just looks stupid. I need to take this all out. Also, I got deodorant all over it. A fun thing about the dress of my dreams not working out is that I get to try out my new boots. I got some new boots off of Amazon, and I feel like they'll go great with the new way this outfit is going. Woohoo! Look at these! Woohoo! And got them on. And now I'm just gonna try to drape this beautiful lace skull fabric on as an overskirt. It was supposed to be the overskirt to my skirt, but I think I'm just gonna drape it onto this belt and somehow try and make that work. Now I'm gonna try to just sew this lace fabric onto this bias tape really quick and kind of make a cute little belt and then head on out of here. So making this outfit, quite a rush, literally, pun intended. It was in a rush. There's a lot of things on it that I still want to fix. The bottom part, I sewed this half and forgot about it and never sewed this half, and it's kind of coming off a little from a night of wear and tear. I think I will actually remove this extra sleeve. I ended up just completely safety pinning it on for the night, which stayed on really well. There's really no need for that extra. But I will have to hand sew it on because the boning goes all the way to the edge, so that's why I couldn't just machine it on really quickly. So things I would change about this pattern if I were going to do it again, or if you're going to be following this pattern from Joann's at home. I don't like that the boning in the back goes all the way to the top. Mainly because I have decent posture in real life, so when the boning's all the way to the back and then the sleeve's kind of pulling it forward, it kind of pulls my shoulders forward, so I'm just like hunchback walking around. Whereas if it didn't come all the way up and it was just more to like the shoulder blades or below, then my shoulders could just rest at their normal back position instead of Also, the way I put the boning, it just seemed really boxy. But when I look at the pictures of me, like, the side does kind of go in okay, but then it just, the back maybe like less boning on the side back, because it just made everything really boxy. And yes, we could have tied the corset tighter in the back, which may have helped with the shape a lot. But the string I chose was so thin, and my friend was having trouble cinching it just because it's so thin and she didn't want to break it while we were there with no backup string to lace it with. I did find my saving grace for this project was extra bias tape I just had in my Dragon's Hoard of crafting supplies. So bias tape, I've honestly really never used it except for one time when I made a quilt. Other than that, I've never used it, but it was on sale one time, so I bought some, and it really came in handy for this last-minute project. Oh, also, if I was going to remake this, I would cut the armpit holes bigger, deeper, because I don't like things being up in my armpit, and especially because it has boning, it's harder and up in your armpits. I would definitely probably cut the sleeve shorter and the whole armpit hole shorter, and I would like it a lot better. Also, I'm not big on short shirts, so I would actually want to make it at least to the length of the top part, which I kind of tried to do, just not very well because I wasn't sure what I was doing. The original pattern had it cutting off to go like straight in, so this would just be by itself, and I thought that looked dumb. So I did extend it to come down more, but in hindsight I would extend it to come lower all the way around. But overall, I love my fabric choice, and I do want to continue to still make the full skirt gown, maybe wear it to a Renaissance festival, maybe see what adjustments I can make to the vest to make it more to my liking. Which I think for the most part will just be stronger tie, so I can corset it in better. So I do still want to finish the outfit, even though I didn't have it quite finished for this, because I feel like it still has a lot of potential. All in all, I'm glad I made this project. It was a really fun event to go to, and it's my first official cosplay that I've ever made to go to any event, so I was really excited about that. Also exciting, no one else had a costume quite like mine, so but I really enjoyed making this. Thanks for coming along on the journey with me. If you have any other comments on how you think I can make this costume better for when I am renovating it for the next opportunity I can wear it to, please feel free to put your comments down below. I love creativity, and other people's ideas are sometimes really great, and oftentimes stuff I haven't even thought of and could make stuff really cool. Again, thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for spending time with me, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.